Hey, in Unit 1, Lesson 2, we're looking at terminating and repeating decimals. So let's just think about what terminating and repeating mean. If you think about terminating, if you're familiar with the movie The Terminator, think about what he does. He kills people. He stops them. That's what terminating decimals do. They stop. And then repeating decimals do exactly what it sounds like. They will repeat. So what we're looking at is how to take a fraction value and then write it in its decimal form. And the key there is that you're going to divide. So if you're not already familiar with this concept, when you look at a fraction bar, for example, the fraction bar in 3/4, that fraction bar is really just another way to say divided by. So 3/4 literally means 3 divided by 4. So anytime you have a fraction, you want to know what its decimal equivalent is, you simply divide. Now, there are some times when the denominator, for example, in 3/4, I call that a decimal-friendly denominator because I know that while 4 won't go into 10, it will go into 100. And when you're talking about decimal places, you've got tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and so on. So I know that 4 times 25 is 100. So I can just do 3 times 25 and say, well, that's 75 hundredths. And we know that 75 hundredths can be written like that, 0.75. So when you have a decimal-friendly denominator, you can always do it that way instead of dividing. All right, so let's look at 3/20ths. So if I want to write 3/20ths as a decimal, and you can see the division over here, I'll go ahead and write it out again as I'm explaining it. So 3/20ths literally means 3 divided by 20. So it's the top number in the house, bottom out. Well, 20 will not go into 3, so we do what I call raise a decimal, drop a 0. 20 goes into 30 one time. 1 times 20 is 20. We subtract and get 10. And then we drop another 0. And then 20 goes into 100 5 times. 5 times 20 is 100. Subtract, we got 0. It terminated. Okay, so it stopped right there. We have a remainder of 0, so we are done. So our answer, or our decimal equivalent, is 15 hundredths. So 3/20ths is equal to 15 hundredths. That's a terminating decimal. Let's look at 5/9. So top in, bottom out. Again, 9 will not go into 5, so we raise a decimal, drop a 0. 9 goes into 50 5 times. 5 times 9 is 45. Subtract. Drop a 0. We have 50 again. So 9 goes into 55 times. 5 times 9 is 45. Well, that's just going to keep repeating. This is never going to end. It's never going to terminate. So what we do is we put a bar over the number or the digit that's going to repeat. We call that bar notation. We would read that as 0.5 repeating. So 5/9 can be written as 0.5 repeating. Now that's different than just 0.5. We read that as 5/10. That does not equal, that is not the same as 0.5 repeating. Okay, those are not the same as each other. 0.5 repeating is slightly bigger. Alright, so now let's go in the opposite direction. Let's take a decimal and write it as a fraction. So when you go that direction, I have a little trick I like to remember. Say it, write it, simplify it. Say it, write it, simplify it. So if you're looking at a decimal value and you want to write it as a fraction, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to say it. So if I look at this decimal value and I say it, I'm going to say negative 32, and then that's the tenths place, that's the hundredths place, so negative 32 hundredths. So that's the say it. Now we write it, negative 32 hundredths. And now we see if it can be simplified. So I look at negative 32 hundredths, and I try to think of something that will go into 32 that will also go into 100. Well, I know that 4 will go into both of those. So what I'm going to do is divide this by 4 over 4. Now remember, a number over itself is just 1, so I'm really just dividing it by 1, which means I'm not changing its value. So 4 will go into 32 8 times. 4 will go into 125 times. So negative 32 hundredths, if you simplify it, you get negative 8 25ths. So negative 32 hundredths, the decimal, is equal to negative 8 25ths, the fraction. Okay, let's practice this skill. So we're going to take each of these fractions and we are going to write them as decimals. 8 tenths, well, that's easy. That is the tenths place right there. So we just write it as 8 tenths. Okay, so 8 tenths the fraction. There's 8 tenths the decimal. Okay, easy enough. There really was no work to do because that denominator is a decimal place. Okay, negative 3/5. Couple of things you can do here. I know it's going to be negative. I can do top in, bottom out. So 3 in, 5 out. Raise a decimal, drop a 0. 5 goes into 36 times. 6 times 5 is 30. We've got a 0 as a remainder, so we're done. So negative 6 tenths. Now, another thing you could have done on this one is 5 is a decimal-friendly denominator. It will go into 10. 5 times 2 is 10. So we do 3 times 2. So negative 6 tenths. And I know that as a decimal, that looks like that, negative 6 tenths. You can write it as this. You can put a 0 in front of the decimal. Same thing. Okay, 7/11ths. Okay, 11 is definitely not a decimal-friendly denominator. So we're going to have to do top in, bottom out. 11 won't go into 7, so raise a decimal, drop a 0. 11 goes into 70 6 times. That's 66. We'll subtract. 11 goes into 43 times. That's 33. And subtract. Drop a 0. 11 goes into 76 times. Oh, I see a pattern here. We've already done 70. So this 6 and 3, those are both going to repeat. So 7/11ths as a decimal is 0.63 with the 6-3 repeating. Both digits repeat, so both digits get the bar above them. Okay, 4 and 7/8. Lots of people will say to write this back in its improper fraction form, or what y'all might call popcorn. There's really no need to. This is going to be 4 point something. So I really just need to figure out what 7/8 is as a decimal. So we can do top in, bottom out. And 8 goes into, 8 won't go into 7. So raise a decimal, drop a 0. 8 goes into 78 times. And 8 times 8 is 64. Subtract. Drop a 0. 8 goes into 67 times. 7 times 8 is 56. Subtract. Ooh, ran out of room. Drop a 0. 8 goes into 40. 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40, so it terminated. So it's going to be 4.875, or 4 and 875 thousandths. Okay, next one, 3 and 47/99. Well, I know it's going to be 3 point something. So let's look at 47/99. This one could be kind of yucky. 47 divided by 99. 99 won't go into 47, so raise a decimal, drop a 0. 99 will go into 470 4 times. So 99 times 4 is 396. Another way to think of that would have been 4 times 100 is 400, but you need to come down 4 from that since you really only had 99. You could do it that way. So we're just subtracting now. Drop a 0. So now I have 99 into 740. Well, it's going to go 7 times. So 99 times 7 is 693. Okay, I'm gonna bring that back up here to subtract so I don't run over that next problem that we need to solve. Drop a 0. Oh, look, I get 470 again. So that's going to repeat. Okay, so 0.47. So if I come back over here, so 3 and 47/99 is the same thing as 3.47. with the 4/7 repeating. That's a little pattern there with 47/99. You might want to pay attention to that later on your practice when you're looking at ninths. When you're looking at things like 5/9, 7/9. You'll see a little pattern there. Okay, now we're going to take these decimal values and write them as fractions. So this is say it, write it, simplify it. So negative 14 hundredths, negative 14 hundredths. Well, 2 goes into both of those. 2 goes into 14 7 times. 2 goes into 100 15 times. So negative 7/50. Okay, say it, write it, simplify it. 3/10. Write it, simplify it. Well, that can't be simplified, so it looks just like that. 3/10. Okay, say it, write it, simplify it. So let's say it. 94 hundredths. That can be simplified. I know that 2 goes into both of those. 2 goes into 94 47 times. 2 goes into 100 50 times. So 47/50. Okay, so that's it for repeating and terminating decimals, and you are now ready to complete practice 1, 2. Have a great day.